pirates in a fairyland called Murder. There's, well, a paintbrush, really.
Welcome, Reaper Miniature fans. Today I'm painting the King and Queen of Hell. Now I have two of each of these miniatures, and it's absolutely beautiful miniatures. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do your traditional red tone for the King and Queen, but I'm also going to do a flesh tone version of the King and Queen. And today we're going to look at the flesh tone version because I did a demon not long ago, but I haven't done a flesh tone. So what we're going to do is work on our flesh tones on this video. I'm going to paint all four up, and at the end of the video you'll see all four painted up, but we're going to be showing you the flesh tone version and how I get that done up today. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to give them the base coats. We're going to have red, and we're going to have the flesh tone. So I'll come back once I have the primer coat added. These miniatures are absolutely stunning. The bases don't need anything. Reaper miniatures, I've noticed their bases are getting more and more unique, where we don't need to add a base boss base, especially, I mean, it's already done for you, and it's got some nice pavement carvings, and it looks nicely sculpted, so that's more than acceptable. I still like to add my own bases, but on these ones today I'm going to leave the bases just as they are because they look fantastic. So the miniatures have been primed with a rattle can primer. I used Army Painter Barbarian Flesh, and it's given a nice even coating. Now we're going to be working on the skin tones first, and as soon as the skin is all done we can fill in all the other colours, but because I'm going to be dry brushing all the flesh areas, we want to do that first, because if you make a mess with your dry brushing you can then paint over when you're blocking in the rest of your colours. So getting the flesh done on your miniatures first works a treat, so let's go and do that now. What I'm going to be using for my flesh tones today is I have warrior flesh, I have scholar flesh, and I'm going to add some dragon white to my palette as well if I need to highlight. So what we're going to do now is get that dry brushing done, and we'll do that together. Okay, let's make a start. What I'm going to do, I've got my barbarian flesh, scholar flesh, and my white, my dragon white from MSP, just on my little palette there. Now I'm going to start with the back of the wings, and I'm going straight into the barbarian flesh. Sorry, warrior flesh. And we shall go heavily onto the back of the highest areas of the wings. Just getting that paint on there. Just like so. And straight into the scholar flesh. I'm mixing it on my tissue, and then going back over the areas that I just went over. This will give another highlight. Go on to the other wing. This is with the warrior flesh. This stage is just getting the paint on, because what happens is once the stage is finished, we go over the whole miniature on all the skin with our flesh wash, ink wash. And once that ink wash is on and dried, then we go back and continue with our highlighting of the flesh tones. So what we're doing here, we're just helping the flesh wash do its job, because the flesh wash will go into all the recesses and that'll give it instant shading, but we want a little bit of contrast on all the colours on the flesh. So just doing this before you add the ink wash will actually help on the last stage, which is the highlighting of the skin. And because you're adding that ink wash on top of this layer of skin, what I'm doing now, it will blend in nicely once that ink wash has been added. And we do the same on the front, going back into the barbarian flesh, warrior flesh, barbarian flesh, damn names. So we're just going over all the flesh areas. There we are, little hands there, all the muscles, muscle tones, like so. And what I'm going to do as well is I am going over just the tips of the wings. I'm going to keep the inside of the wings darker, so I just want to highlight the bony fingers, as I call it. So we're just working our way down each of these bony fingers on the wings. And I use a light, I'll go back to the skull of flesh, I'll mix that up a little bit on my tissue. This will bring out some more highlights on the tips of the wings. Very simple but effective. Oops, too much paint, too much paint. Too much paint alert. Whoop, whoop. Okay. That's it. We're saving it. We're saving it. There you go. There you go. Just on the wings, nowhere else. Can be a little tricky, especially the way I'm doing this, to try and keep it in the camera. But it's working. It's working fine. Okay. This bit of skull of flesh mixing again. So we're back over the chest muscles, just highlighting certain areas. Remember, there is an ink wash going on this. We will be using our flesh wash by Army Painter to go over certain areas. Okay, already looking good. Okay, let's go back a bit more here. Just going over just areas that you want highlighted, because you want that flesh wash to be able to show the flesh underneath, and this is just to highlight that flesh. And once that flesh wash is dried, we can go back and highlight and finish off our flesh. It's a very simple process, and this is why I'm showing you this today. So that's all you need to do for the flesh. What we'll do now is I'll add the ink wash, and then I'll come back once that ink wash has dried. So the ink wash has been applied and it's all been dried, and it looks fantastic. All we need to do now is I'm just going to go a tiny bit over the tops of the flesh areas with a little more of the scholar flesh, and that's all we need to do for the skin tones, and that looks fantastic. Look at that, beautiful, lovely. That's exactly what I wanted. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish in all the blocking in of all the other colours, and I'm going to get this miniature all painted up, and I'll come back and we'll go from there. As you can see, I've done a lot of work on these now. I've blocked in all the colours. I've added some silvers and some browns and some blacks, and I've done the base. Now what I've done with the silver, I've given that a black ink wash, and I've given a brown ink wash to the clothes and the robes. I've highlighted the wings, finished off all the skin tones, and that, like I told you before, that is just a little highlight with the scholar flesh. Now all I'm doing is I'm just waiting for this black ink wash to dry and the brown ink wash to dry, and then I'll just highlight all the silver with some edge painting, with some right on the edges of all the silver armour, and that'll give a light source. I've got a little bit of gold to add to the queen on the hilt of a sword. I might add a little bit of gold here and there to the king as well, but I actually really like the silver effect. So what I'll do now is I'll come back and show you the finished miniatures. So here are the finished miniatures, absolutely beautiful. These sculpts are just spot on. I'm super happy how the skin tones all came out. The chest on the King of Hell and the definition in the stomach muscles, I think that is just beautiful, absolutely fantastic. Beautiful miniatures, joy to paint, and highly recommended to buy from Reaper Miniatures. These are definitely up in my top 10s. These are very, very nice miniatures. They look awesome, absolutely beautiful, beautiful miniatures. Okay, let me show you what's for next week's build and paint. Next week's build and paint from Reaper Miniatures is Mashaf. This is the Great Mother. This is the Great Worm. Great Mother Mashaf. This is a beast of a miniature. I'm going to be mounting this onto a base boss 160mm base, and I'm going to be adding a lot more rocks and a nice diorama to the base for this one. So that's next week's paint, Great Mother Mashaf. So I hope you come and join me. If you enjoy what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, then please become a patron. All patrons are added to the end credits of all my videos. So until next time.
Goodbye, my fellow ones. Sleep well. Dream of evil paintbrushes.